All right, everybody, welcome to the Backwoods Life Podcast. Myself, Michael Lee, I'm here today. I have the always beautiful Kevin Knighton, and Kevin, I hadn't seen you in a little while. Like we haven't crossed paths. Turkey season is hectic, and now we're in, you're in baseball mode at home and summertime stuff, and I'm on the honeydew list. And I know we're going to cross paths in the very near future because we got work to do in the woods. But I know we start every podcast. I want to comment on your beard again because
it's a theme.
It looks like you've been putting some Miracle-Gro and some fertilizer on that thing. You got it thick as some of this corn that's volunteered up in my food plot in my backyard.
Well, I put a little bit of Antler King foliar fertilizer on it, and I got it just looking, as best I possibly can.
And everybody listen, we got our good friend Robie from Antler King on with us today. We got a lot of good stuff coming about food plots and all, but I think Kevin's been putting that jolt on his beard. I swear, I think he's been brushing it in there.
It sure looks like it. I'll tell you, and my customer service is going to go crazy right now. People's going to be wanting to use it on their beard growth and stuff.
It's a combination. You got to brush a little bit on there, and you got to just put a little bit in your coffee in the mornings. It makes a big difference.
Just a quick pick me up to get the day going. Next thing you know, you're a foot taller, and that's just how good that stuff works. But Robert, we're glad to have you on. Kevin and I kind of did the podcast for a while. We put it on hiatus just because of crazy schedules and everything, and now we resurrected this thing, and we caught up with like 2012, so that we started using technology to have our people that we work with and guests on this thing. So we're glad to have you here today. I just want to ask you, where are you at and what you doing?
Well, I'm here in my home state in central Illinois here, just going crazy trying to get some food plots done, working on all my spring clover plots and taking care of all my customer service for the company right now. So the phone calls, emails, and texts are going crazy. So in between all that, I'm actually honeydew list, the same as you're talking about, a little bit of everything, but trying to take care of a lot of customers right now for the spring planting.
It's that time of year, man. I mean, that's really something that we want to talk about today, as far as like what everybody should be doing and just little things, and we'll get into that shortly. Kevin, I mean, I know where you're at. I mean, I see the wall of fame back there behind you. What are you up to?
Well, I mean, trying to get TV shows ready to go to the networks. New season starts here at end of June, so we've been trying to get all that stuff put together. And Kyler's been playing a lot of baseball, so of course that wraps up about 3 nights a week and most of the weekends the last few weeks. So just out here living the life.
I mean, if you get done with that, come on up here. I'll put you to work.
Well, and let's see, over the weekend and Friday, I put together some new Rungu bicycles, and that was a lot of fun.
I said sarcasm in that.
They will be ready to ride out and sneak through the woods next time we get a chance.
Robert, do you have an e-bike?
I do not. No.
Okay. Well, now wait a minute. You were one of the people that showed me that you had one and said how good it worked.
Well, me and a buddy kind of have one together. Keep it at his place more than it gets to stay at mine. So no, I actually don't have one.
Okay, so now it's just like the movie Friday.
Yeah, so I'm not going to tell you his name, but he'll be listening and he's laughing. So yeah, he kind of took it away from me after I brought it home.
So Debo has Robbie's bike at his house right now. It's our bike. We just keep it at his house. That's how it works. So
yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So
the bad thing about my bike is like 7 hours away right now. So, and that's where it stays. For some reason, it never comes back to Illinois. So,
well,
I'll put a seat on the back of mine, Robbie, and when I come past your house, you can hop on and ride with me.
I'll take a ride. Heck yeah. As long as I'm not on the handlebars, I'll do it.
Well, these Rungu bikes here have 2 front tires on them, so I think that could get interesting.
That could get very interesting. Yeah.
the front end's a lot more stable, or that's where the stability lies in these things. So you might want to sit on the handlebars, Robert.
Do you do burnouts with the front tires or back tires on this one, Kevin?
Oh, the back tires where all the power lies.
All right, just want to make sure we got that covered. But Kevin had some Wi-Fi difficulties, and before we hopped on here and started recording, I was talking to Robbie about us turkey hunting, and we hunt our food plots, so a lot with Antler King plots. And Robbie, the secret of this thing is, me and Kevin were talking one day, and we said, you know what, if we had a couple of them electric bikes, I think we could probably sneak up on these turkeys. And I mean, at the end of the day, we don't really need to sneak up on these turkeys.
Right.
But I think we can sneak around the woods because we got our side by sides we ride, and the ones we got aren't very loud at all. But it's one of those things where, you got noise. But riding these bikes, I'm thinking if we just kind of easing on through the woods and one guy was like, hey, I heard him.
Yep.
Something to this, and then not that we don't need to walk, but when it's 80 degrees in Georgia, 85 degrees, and you full of turkey gear, you really don't want to walk.
No, you don't. No.
Well, and that was conversation number one. What put the icing on the cake for me was we were in Iowa deer hunting, and we had a walk that was about a quarter mile downhill to then have about a quarter mile uphill to get to where we were going. And going in and coming out, that walk sucked both ways.
Man, but if you're hunting Iowa, that walk, that's an easy walk if you're getting to hunt Iowa. So
that was my point exactly. And it's December. It's not hot.
You would think that, but man, that hill sucked either way you were coming up it.
Heck yeah.
I think we call that fat kid problems.
I cannot disagree, and I cannot dispute the evidence, but it still sucked.
You just pop in 3 Little Debbie's, buddy, and you just give her all the try you can.
Oh, I had a full tank, buddy, and I was rolling as hard as I could.
Anyway, I digress this conversation to the Little Debbie level. So let's jump into what we're kind of here to talk about, Kevin. Let's jump in here for some food plot. Well, actually, before we jump deep into food plot, Robbie, right quick, for those that haven't seen you on social media, I mean, you're all over Antler King stuff and your personal stuff, and you're always giving food plot information, great how-tos. Just you try. Honestly, you're probably one of the best people in this industry that we work with that gives that knowledge to anybody that's thirsting for it to do better. So give us just a quick rundown of kind of your background.
Well, my background, with the company, this is my 18th year with Antler King, from being, as a staff member to part-time to full-time position. I've been with the company that, like I say, they've been a family for 18 years, and always helped Todd, the original founder of the company, in anything I could. Everybody's seen me at the shows. I take care of all the shows, done that for many of years. My key thing right now is a product specialist and customer service, as you said. I take a lot of pride in my customer service. So if anybody out there has ever talked to somebody on the phone, emailed, text, whatever, you're talking to me. That I'm the only one in the company that's taking care of all this. It's a pretty good sized role, and especially this time of year, springtime planning. I've taken 30 calls already this morning. Since 6 o'clock. Just people's trying to get. The weather's been bad this year, so everybody right now is trying to get them last minute food plots in the Midwest, and so it's a pretty hectic deal, but I love it. Anytime I can teach somebody about food plots, that's what I'm here for.
And that's exactly what this industry needs, man. I mean, need more guys like you out there pushing the envelope to help people and, make it a better environment overall. And I think, and Kevin, you hop in wherever you see fit, but I do see that as a big void in this industry, that there's not tons of help out there. There's a lot of people that want you to buy stuff,
right?
But then there's not a ton of people that want to help you with it after you buy it.
Right. Well, and with us, I mean, and I get it through our marketing group and for a corporate office, they tell me, they said, Rob, you work, you're 8 to 4:30. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm 24 hours a day, because these calls come in all the time. It takes a lot of my time, but I enjoy it. And that's just something you don't see in the industry. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn or nothing like that. But when people need help, I want to help them out in any way I can. And people they don't believe me sometimes, because when they call me up, they might tell me they're using a competitor's product. I'll help them just as well. If they're having issues on planting something or why something won't grow, I'm there to help them. I mean, I'm not biased. I'll help them in any way I can, and eventually try to turn them around to the Antler King products and tell them why they should be using it. But I'm going to help them in any way I can.
Well, and sometimes when you're talking about food plot advice and you have a question about it, you might be standing in the woods by the tractor, trying to figure something out. And if you call and get a 800 number voicemail, somebody customer service, you just ain't gonna have the answer before you need it.
Right. Well, and I get a lot of calls that, what normally happens with us is you'll have somebody call into our corporate office, and that will go to Kendra in our office. Well, she automatically will email me saying, Rob, this person has called. And a lot of times they're urgent. They're standing in a store wanting to know what they should buy, or why they should buy Honey Hole instead of Slam Dunk, or what they need to plant right now. They want to buy it. They're standing in the aisle of the store while I'm talking to them. So yeah, what you're saying is exactly true.
That's what we call real-time help. You're the help support desk at Antler King 24/7 almost right there.
I try my best. Yes, sir.
Well, speaking of that, so you said you've already had 30 calls this morning and so forth, and we're probably holding you up for an hour.
Oh no.
Calls. But
yeah, there's 14 rednecks standing in Tractor Supply right now trying to figure out what to buy.
I'm on hold, man. But so right now is the time of year, especially us down here, where everything's greened up. We might as well. I know it's May 23rd, but we might as well be summer down here. I mean, the weather's summertime patterns. We're getting humid afternoon showers. All of our fall plots, they've headed out. They're turning brown. What is a next step, from your perspective on an advisory role? So we're sitting in this situation we're in right now, this time of the year. Like, just prime example, I've got an acre right here behind my house. I've got clover that's already grown up. It's seeded out. Most all of that's turned brown. I've got oats that's standing out there. They're all brown on top, seeded out. What's my next step? You tell me what I need to do now.
With your clover plots, you need to start maintaining them. You need to top them plots. You need to mow them. Anytime you see that flower come on that clover, you want to cut them. Makes them more palatable for the deer to eat. It brings that protein level back up. So you want to keep them maintained, and at the same time, it's helping with weed and grass control. Now you look in your annual plots that are heading out, like you're talking about your oats and stuff like that. With you guys being in what I call sugar sand area out there, the real sandy area, if it's me, I'm working them plots up. I'm turning all that stuff under and giving some good organic matter into that soil. And with that, you're actually going to be able to hold a lot more moisture in. So you just use that stuff that's standing up there dead right now, get it under the ground, and it's going to be a good organic matter for you.
Gotcha. And I think, and one of the biggest questions I get from people, especially in the South, because I mean, it's no secret nowadays, man, fuel costs a lot, fertilizer costs a lot, lime costs a lot, everything's gone up exponentially, just the world we live in right now. So a lot of guys, this past fall that I know, they went and said, hey, I'm planting clover. I want to get 3, 4, 5 years out of that. So if I'm sitting here with that acre of clover that's headed out, how do I transition that clover from? At what point do I need to make sure I let it get to what stage? And then I can mow it where I'm going to overseed the seed that it made back into it for it to have that perennial effect.
Well, what you have there is, and it's going to be different from where you're at to come where I'm at. So you're always looking, like I said, when that plant flowers. When that plant flowers, that's a tattletale sign. Now, where you're at, your clover might flower at a foot tall, or mine flower at 22 inches, just because of our soil difference. So you always want to look for that tattletale sign with that clover, with that flowering like that. Now, one thing I would like to add, and you mentioned it with the prices of fertilizer, diesel fuel, everything going sky high. What I try to push a lot of people, and I do it myself, and I've done it for years, clover will actually suck in nitrogen from the atmosphere and store it into the soil. So the best thing you can do on any of these plots, say these annual plots that you have that you're only planting in the fall of the year, your annual plots, they love nitrogen. So what I like doing, I like taking clover in the springtime of the year, and I'll plant clover on all my annual plots and let it start storing nitrogen into that soil. So when you turn it under to plant your annual plots in the fall, they're going to have a whole bunch of nitrogen there already. So you're saving some money on not putting as much nitrogen on that plot. because a clover plant will actually, you take a good acre clover plot, it's going to store in 100 150 pounds of nitrogen into that soil per year per acre. So you're giving them annuals a lot of nitrogen there, and you're feeding the deer through the summer at the same time. So don't just let them plots that sit there empty. Throw some cheap clover down there, let it suck that nitrogen in. It's going to help them annual plots for the next that fall.
But Robbie, talking about improving your soil, and I know we're talking about clover right now, but clover isn't the only seed y'all sell that is actually going to improve and benefit the soil.
No, cereal rye, the cereal rye it's gonna pull all the nitrogen from down deep. The chicory is gonna be a great soil builder. It just depends on what you're wanting to plant there. But when it comes for something that is so easy to grow, easy to throw out there, and a cheaper variety, the clover is just a way that I like using it, just because clover will grow almost anywhere. That's the thing. It'll grow on the rocks out here if I throw it out here. But yeah, you're exactly right. There is multiple products out there that are soil builders that we offer.
And along those same lines, Robbie, I think, economics being a variable nowadays with guys, and we don't know what the future is going to bring as far as how it's going to affect people's spending abilities and everything like that. I mean, so from a food plot standpoint, I mean, you guys, I don't want to tie up our whole podcast in talking about like how to save money on food plots, but you guys have a lot of great information out there that a lot of people think that you have to go in every year. You've got to lime and fertilize and plant, summer plots, and you got to, fertilize and plant your fall plots, and that's factual on some level. But there are a lot of methods like we're talking about that you can do to save money on the necessity part of that. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to make the best food plots that we can afford as hunters,
right?
Because but at the end of the day, we're not farmers. We're not trying to put how many bushels to an acre of corn out there to make a living. Like we're doing this as a hobby. And I think, if people, use resources like yourself, like all the information out there. I mean, and good gosh, Facebook's full of you guys videos and information out there and stuff like that. Your website. If you do things right, you can have very economical food plots, and it doesn't matter if you're planting 1 acre or 40 acres. You can do these things and not have to basically remortgage your house right now with all these prices,
Right. Well, and the number one thing everybody needs to do, they think fertilizer, but the number one thing you can do to a food plot is check the pH of that soil, and I don't care if you use our pH kits or what you use, just check that pH. It's the cheapest thing you can do. That pH means more to a plot than anything. That's going to let them plant. That's going to be the tattletale to let them plants know how much of the nutrients they can suck in. So if you got too low of a pH, it doesn't matter how much fertilizer you spend and put on that plot, the plants will never utilize it. You're just pretty much throwing money down on the ground if you got too low of a pH. So, and with you talking about with all the information that's out there, and I try to tell everybody this, and I see it a lot. A lot of people ask me, Rob, why aren't you on a lot of these habitat sites? Why aren't you on all these pages? And the number one is there's so many people out there giving information that it might work for them, but it's not going to work for the other person. And a lot of people are taking this information to heart, and I get these calls all the time on, hey, I did it this way, but it's not working, but it works for so-and-so. The thing I like to tell anybody on here is if you have any problems or if you have any questions about a product, no matter if it's our product or who it is, call the manufacturer, find out who it is, get their advice, and they know that product better than anybody. So, I mean, not trying to damn any of the pages that are out there, because there is a lot of good information, but man, if you have a problem, get a hold of the manufacturer and we'll work with you the best we can.
And that's good advice. Like you said, I mean, just like if you're going to buy a choke tube for your shotgun, that manufacturer is going to know exactly what ammo is going to shoot best with what concentration, because you guys have tested everything and ran it through the gauntlet because a reputable company is going to do everything they can to put out a top end product and
Exactly.
have all those answers sitting right there for you.
Exactly. And our testing product is unbelievable. I mean, you guys test product for us. You know how it goes, and we get your guys' feedback on certain things, and where you're at, it's unbelievable what you guys can actually grow out there that I would never dream that you could get to grow where you're at, and it's just, that's the testing product there, a process there that that we enjoy doing and getting all the feedback from, and that's how we help our customers. That's why I can do my job, is because people like you that test it for us in all different climates and areas, and it works out perfect.
And, I know we kind of bouncing around a little bit with some different tips and things, but, talking about your pH and improving with lime, but, to me, one of the most important things you can do too is you kept recommending to us, put exclusion cages out there.
Yeah.
And for a lot of years, we didn't take the time to make those and put them out. And we have some plots that if you didn't have an exclusion cage, you would think nothing even grew out there, because as soon as it's coming up, the deer are wiping it out. Make sure that what you're seeing is what's really happening. And an exclusion cage gives you a chance to actually see what grew instead of fussing about, oh, well, this seed didn't come up or whatever. Truth is, your deer probably ate it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that happens even here in Illinois where I'm at, where I have lush green clover plots. There are certain half-acre plots that they will never flower because I got so many does on the property, I can't get rid of enough of them. They will keep it mowed off for me. And a lot of people call me up and say, man, my clover never flowers. Why? Something wrong with it. Well, put a cage out there and see what it does. And they'll see that them deer are keeping it mowed down. I mean, it's amazing how much forage a deer can take in, and just a half a dozen does will wipe out a half-acre plot before you know it. And where you guys are at, I remember them pictures. Them are awesome on how much growth you actually had, and it was just a bare plot except for them cages.
Yeah, our good buddy Mike Daly that helps us with our food plots with Middle Georgia Wildlife Solutions. I remember he when he first saw our piece of property, he's like, man, this dirt ain't much to work with, but once we establish a few of those bigger plots, like we've got one that's 3 acres and one that's 4 acres. I remember Mike just riding along, and he'd get off that tractor and he starts smiling, laughing. He's like, what are you laughing at, man? He's like, y'all gonna have all the neighbors' deer. He said, they're gonna be so mad at y'all. But piggybacking what Kevin said, those exclusion cages and literally you go right through some of our plots right now. It's bare dirt, everything's gone. They've eaten it down to nothing, it died off. And it's just a layer of sand sitting there until you get to the exclusion cage that we put up. And you got brassicas and turnips and oats and everything that's a foot tall, 2 feet tall, where deer even trying to eat through the cage, get to the tops of those plants. And you take that cage away, that stuff good in 24 hours, it's gone.
It's gone.
But it's amazing. It like Kevin said, the people that go out there and they'll plant these food plots, and then they'll, not come back to the property for a month or come back even 2 weeks, when everything's sprouting up and growing good, and just, well, man, there's nothing out here because the deer just eat it that fast, and people don't realize it. But my point with all that with Mike was he was over there helping us out one day, and he was saying a guy was upset with him. He was telling us a story. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, the guy doesn't realize the deer are eating the stuff faster than it can grow. Right. He said he's planting this plot, and this guy just goes, man, these things ain't growing. These things ain't growing. And finally, Mike's like, dude, I'm telling you, like, there are deer tracks everywhere. They're eating everything. And we even posted pictures on our social media accounts of the food plots we're talking about with, hey, this was a food plot. And then, the keyboard jockey's comment, it looks like those seed didn't grow. That's And then we go, oh, look over here. This is what it would look like if you didn't have deer. It's amazing.
Exactly right. Yep. Yeah, there's nothing better than an exclusion cage.
It just makes deer mad though, because the old deer walks by and looks at that thing. Come on, guys, like for real, like real. This is what you're gonna do to me right here, teasing me with those big old lush turnip right there, and I can't get to it. It's rude. And it's all Kevin's fault because they watched Kevin do that.
It's Kevin's fault. Yep.
Yeah, every one of them exclusion cages has my scent on it where I put it together. It's all me.
They like my scent because I'm the one that fills up the feeders over there.
There you go.
Oh, well, speaking of that, right now I was looking at trail camera pictures before we hopped on here, and man, we've got bucks growing out. Some of them look pretty good right now. You guys supplement side of things has got to be taking off right now. I mean, it's that time of the year where if you supplemental feed, pellets and a rack maker, those mixes like that. I mean, it's time for that right now, right?
No, they're going crazy over it right now. I mean, I can say in the last probably 3 years, I've seen a big jump in the supplemental feeding of guys. I mean, a lot of them are getting into it. A lot of these states outlawed it, so the food plots went up in their states, but A lot of the other ones have been able to do it. Now there's a lot of people getting on board and really they're wanting a healthier deer herd. I mean, you used to hear a lot about just big bucks, big bucks, big bucks. And now you're more or less, you're getting a lot of these guys are really wanting to practice the supplemental feeding on getting a healthier herd to make them bigger deer. Now they're wanting their whole herd healthy. So, and products like with our deer nut pellets, our rack maker, them two products right there will do it for them. And then you got all of our other supplements like our cotton candy, roasted bean cuisine. This time of year, very high in protein. I mean, they're going off the shelves right now just because everybody's wanting to pump the protein to them deer while they're growing.
And that's one thing that we do. You've probably seen a few of our pictures that we'll get about 4 or 5 different bags, and it looks like the old ice cream with the 3 or 4 different flavors in it. That's what our feed troughs look like. They got several options in there, just a
little buffet for
them.
Yeah, we call that the Antler King buffet.
The Antler King buffet. There you go.
Yeah.
That sounds like a new mix right there. That sounds like a new feed plan.
Yeah, see, look here. See what comes out of good podcast, man.
Yeah.
This is brain trust right here.
That is good. We got our Booner buffet, but
I think Backwoods buffet sounds pretty good.
I think that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, we won't charge much royalty.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
Well, I had another question I was going to ask you, Robbie, and I actually was going to call you and ask you this, but since we're already on here talking, I might as well throw you in the fire because I saw something on Facebook the other day, somebody talking about they were feeding a pellet to their deer with a safeguard wormer to try to deworm deer. Talk to me about any thoughts on anything like that.
There's a few companies out there. How do I want to say this the right way? It's something that we looked into, but at the same time, it's a lot of hype. Let's just put it that way. I mean, there is some benefit. Don't get me wrong. There is benefit. There's nothing wrong with what they're doing. But for what we have seen to do it in a proper way and to give the deer exactly what they want, in a pellet form, it's almost impossible. But you are giving the deer some benefit by what they're doing. So it's not like it's a gimmick what they're doing. It actually helps, but to help in the way it needs to help, it's just we just can't do it. It's just about impossible to put it in a small pellet.
And from what I understand, I mean, like your deer and elk pellets and your rack maker, I mean, it's got a lot of the things that are going to benefit the deer kind of equally, if not more, right?
With us, with our amp that we have in ours, it's a digestive aid. The digestive system of a deer, that's the most important thing you can do there. No, you want them to be able to store what they're eating. And with our product, with our amp, say in our rack maker, it's not only for a digestive aid for the rack maker, it's for anything they want to eat. Their natural browse, agriculture, anything they eat, it's a digestive aid for that. So they're going to store that where they need it to instead of just pass right through them. So the digestive system of a deer, that's the key thing right there. And that digestive aid is, I mean, all of our supplements, our minerals, our feed, all of it have our amp in it for their digestive system. And that's something that we have ran. Todd's used that for, 25 plus years.
The only environment that I've had an in-depth conversation about the dewormer part of that for deer is the guys that are deer breeders, where they can control almost 100% of what that deer eats. And they say, yes, it works really well in that. But I mean, you got to think
exactly.
These deer may be in a 5 or 10 acre breeder pen and they're eating just tons and tons of pellets, where you can, that's going to be basically other than the grass that they're laying around. That's the only thing they're going to eat. So they do say it works well in that environment. Now,
it does.
Deer like all of us are out there hunting and trying to grow. That deer is probably not going to consume the volume
exactly
that it takes, because a deer is a glorified goat, right? They're going to eat.
Yeah.
I've got deer eating the leaves off of corn stalks back here. That can't be very palatable at all.
No, it's not.
That's what they're doing, just because they're walking by like, let me try that. Then let me try this. That, you ever watch a deer in the wild, like especially when it's still green, early season, they're just literally walking around eating everything.
They're
just eating leaves everywhere.
Yep. And you're exactly right. The deer breeders, the deer farmers, that pellet with that wormer in it, they're getting a lot of benefit from that. It's working really well, because that's what that deer is eating. Just like you said, in the wild, it's a different story there on how much they can consume. And if they consume enough of it, we're in a pen, they will. So, yeah.
The deer in the wild don't think like me and Kevin do. They think, oh, let me just go around, be a deer. Let me eat some salad. Let me eat some this. Me and Kevin like, no, I'm going to the feeder, bro. I'm going to the trough. It's going to be a buffet. It's all you can eat every time I go.
You got that right. Heck yeah.
Unfortunately, that's a good thing from our end because we couldn't afford to feed them if they ate. I mean, they eat enough as it is, but
exactly.
It's crazy. Honestly, once you get deer eating on the supplemental side of things, it really is amazing how much they will eat.
Oh yeah, they will.
If I was a deer, you'd have to step over me to fill up the feeder, but I'd be the first one you shot on opening day.
I was going to say Kevin would be the first buck that went down.
Yeah.
Well, Robert, let's shift gears. I think we hit on some really good stuff so far. What, in your opinion, and I think we've probably hit on a couple of these already, what are the top maybe 5 biggest mistakes that people make on their food plots?
Number one, not checking the pH. That's the number one right there. Number two, and this is going to be kind of two-sided here. I have found, and actually dealing with Kevin here too a lot, some other people in southern states, certain areas, it's okay to overseed a food plot with too much seed just because of the soil, sandier soil, especially stuff like that, for the germination loss you have. But like here in the Midwest where I'm at, you do not want to overseed a food plot. A lot of people will go in there and overseed with way too much seed. What happens there? It'd grow up, it'd get 3 inches tall, look like a golf course, and all of a sudden they start starving each other for nutrition. They lay over and die. And people think there's something wrong with the seed, stuff like that. It's just, there's not enough nutrition in that soil, no matter how much you put on it, to make them plants survive. So number 2 would be overseeding a food plot with too much seed. Seed depth, that's a big one. A lot of people will want to get in, especially with the guys these days using tillers on a lot of their plots. They're thinking they need to turn that soil over to look like a garden, just real powdery. Then they want to go in and seed it and either walk away from it or try to drag over it. Well, number one, when you're seeding, when you're tilling, you're getting 6-8 inches deep. It's real powdery. Then you go to drive over top of it to drag it, and you're just smashing seed way too deep. So you're losing germination that way. So seed depth's another one. Call the pack is the best thing you can ever do. Call the pack, make a good firm seed bed, seed over it, call the pack again. So seed depth would be number 3, getting it way too deep. Number 4, and this is one that a lot of people are going to argue with me on because they don't realize how it really works. But a lot of people don't want to wait for Mother Nature to offer moisture. They want to get in there and try to water a plant or water a plot. And a lot of people don't realize that literally it takes 30,000 gallons of water to equal 1 inch of rain on an acre. So you're going in there with a 500-gallon tank and just making a little muddy mess on top, and then it doesn't rain. All that seed's going to do is lay there and rot. You're going to lose all your germination. The seed's going to be done. 90% of the seeds out there, if you get them in there, you get them in the soil, they're going to lay there dormant. So the best thing to do, unless you can offer them that much water per time and keep that water going, don't water them. Just let Mother Nature take her time. I mean, usually it might not come up. A lot of people want to plant a plot and they want to see it green in 2 weeks. You don't have the rain, you're not going to have that. That seed's still there, still laying there dormant. It's going to come up as soon as your rains come in. So that would be number 4 there. The other one, pretty much when it comes to your perennials, is maintaining your plots. They don't want to do it. They think they're just going to plant them. They don't think you need to mow your clovers or your chicories. A lot of people don't realize chicory needs to be mowed. Chicory is going to flower just like clover. But 99% of the time, if you take something like our trophy clover mix that has chicory in it, the clover will flower before the chicory will. So you never see that chicory flower. So you're already mowing it. But if you plant straight chicory like I do, and I'm a big fan of, you'll see that plant grow up and all of a sudden shoot a stem out the center and it's going to flower. You want to mow it because it's starting to get stemmy and it will turn back sweet again. So they were probably the biggest no-nos that you can do on a food plot. You got to kind of stay away from. But again, number one, check that pH, get that pH right, add some lime, cheapest way to go.
And one thing you hit on there, I wanted to ask this because this is something I've always wondered myself. If I'm going to go mow my clover or my chicory, what height should I mow that at?
I like keeping my clover, when I mow it, I like keeping that 5 to 6 inches high. A lot of people over the years have heard mow it where you got 8 inches left standing. You know, it's really going to determine on Mother Nature for you. If you're getting a lot of moisture, you can mow it lower. I like keeping mine 5 to 6. If you're not getting the moisture, don't mow it. I mean, don't ever mow it when you got a dry spell coming in, nothing like that. Just let it go, let it flower out. When your rains start coming back in, then mow it. But no, I like that 5 to 6 inch height, you know, keep it about there.
Okay.
And, you know, that was last year, especially around social media, you know, we were talking about all the keyboard warriors and all the advice that's available. I saw a lot of people last year arguing to not mow their clover, and they had seen some studies about how, you know, the amount of forage that was produced versus, you know, mowing versus not. But I've always heard what you're saying here, that mowing is the ticket.
It is. And, you know, I actually was just on one of them with them keyboard warriors the other day, and I finally had to just delete everything off. That was, you know, when your clover matures, it's least palatable for the deer to eat, and it's at its lowest protein rate. There are studies everywhere to tell you that. Where these people get this stuff out is beyond me. But when you mow that clover, it's going to bring that protein back up. Like our trophy clover, you're looking about a 30% protein plant. It's going to bring it right back up to its highest protein and the most palatable for their deer to eat. So I understand when people look at a big, tall, standing clover, they're like, man, it's just awesome. Look at all that forage. But I try to tell people, if you walk out, and I can do it on my property right now, I have a hay field that I got to cut across to get to one of my plots. My clover is 3 inches tall right now because the deer are just wiping it out. But there's forage clover all over that hay field that's 1.5 feet tall right now, and the deer walk right through it. It's just because it's not palatable for them to eat. And it's not, they know what they want. So soon as that farmer goes in there and bells that, I promise you the cameras will blow up and there'll be deer all over that thing because they're in there eating that fresh clover. So you definitely want to mow it.
So just because it'll grow more leaves and might produce more forage doesn't mean it's the forage the deer is going to want to eat.
No. Now, if you're wanting it for belling, to use it the bell, yeah, let it grow and let it get as much as it can, and then bell it, and, you know, cut it and bell it. But for what we're wanting it for with our deer on our plots, you want it the best it can be for them.
I got to go get on the mower, guys. We'll see y'all later.
Yeah.
and I'll say this too. You know, just talking about the plots in general. I've got a couple here behind my house. One's about 1 acre and it's in the open. There's no trees really around it except the wood line. Then I've got a real small one that's maybe a 1/4 acre in the woods. And it's amazing at how different those two plots will perform. The soil is similar in both. Here I have a little bit of sandy soil, but it's a lot of darker soil. So I got some pretty good nutrients. But in that shady plot back there, I mean, they both grew very well. I mean, they're both very tall, but that one in the shade is probably, I won't say twice as tall, but it's pretty close just because of it gets enough sunlight, but it's, you know, it's got giant pines on both sides of it. So it's getting shade on some of that plot almost all day long. And that's another strategy I think people can look at when they're planting those plots and picking their spots. Yes, we all love to have a, you know, big food plot in a big wide open area that we can see a long ways, but those little, basically what a lot of us refer to here as kill plots in the woods, or you know, 1/4 acres, 1/2 acres, 1 acre, whatever, they can perform really, really well. You know, it may not have the room to have 20 deer in it at one time. You may only have 5, but if we're only hunting that right one, that's all that matters. You know?
Exactly. And with you know, in them shaded areas, you get a lot of growth. Number one, because it's not getting burnt by the sun as much. Number two, them shaded areas hold a lot more moisture. So that moisture is staying there longer than it will be out there in that dead sun out there. So yeah, you're getting a lot better growth and a lot healthier plants. If you're in a time where you're not getting the moisture as you should, stuff like that, that shaded area is going to hold some of that down deep, or them plants are they're going to thrive a lot better for you.
Yeah, I was about to say, you said exactly what I was going to. That I don't know how the sun is where you are, but down here in the South, it's hot. And
Yeah, yeah,
it beats them plants up pretty hard. And like you said, it sucks out the moisture.
it does, sucks it right out. Yep.
Well, we've kind of gone through the gauntlet of different scenarios. We talked about supplemental feed. We talked about what do we do this time of the year. Just a lot of little things there. But there's one product that we haven't mentioned yet, and it's not really a food plot per se, but Barricade.
Oh, yeah.
That's a product that we've started using when you guys rolled it out. We've seen what it can do. If anybody that's listening to this or watching this on YouTube hasn't heard about Barricade or seen Barricade, stop what you're doing right now. Go
Yep.
look it up and just see how useful of a tool it can be. It's basically, you can use Barricade as so many variables on your food plots. You can use it as cover to get in and out of your blind, out of your stand. You can use it to funnel deer into bow range, whatever you need. And I would just tell a quick rundown about Barricade, what it is and how useful it is.
Yeah, Barricade's a sorghum product that we use for what we call a shielding product. It's growing 8 foot tall. You pour the nitrogen to it. It can get up there. A lot of mine last year was averaging 12 to 14 foot high. But blocking a road off from people looking down through your plots and spooking deer off to travel corridors, splitting up in big fields and getting the deer to come to you within bow range. The good thing about the product is 1/4 acre bag is going to plant an 8 foot wide strip, 1/4 mile long. So it's going to cost you $20 to do that. So with me, just like last year, sitting there in one of my big fields that I actually run Barricade, kind of beat everything into a 30-yard shot to a blind for my daughter. I start looking, thinking, man, I need to switch it and put it over here and over here. And for a $20 bill, it's pretty feasible. Or when you're using a perennial blend, because Barricade is an annual, when you're using a perennial blend, you're talking $300 to $400 to do that instead of a $20 bill. So you can either use it in the same spot every year, or every year you can change it or add it. It's not going to break the bank doing it, and it grows very well. One thing I would like to talk to you about Barricade is, though, and a lot of people don't realize, the quicker you get it planted, the better off you are. So anytime you can get that ground temp at 60 degrees or warmer, that's when you need to start planting it. I'd like to see you get it planted at least 3 months before your first frost if you're wanting that good 8 to 10 foot growth out of it. But man, you can put a deer in your lap with a product like this and make him come and look for them deer and put him right within bow or gun range.
Well, and when this product, first came out and I saw a lot of the information about it, I just thought of it as a shield. If you got a field that's by a roadway, you plant it by the roadway, people can't see out in your field. Or if you want to make a shield to be able to walk to your blind without getting spotted. But, when Todd came down and was looking at everything and showing it to us, I didn't realize how thick and hardy that plant growth could be, to where you can actually, like you said, funnel deer movement with that product.
Yeah, it's so thick a deer won't go through it. I mean, you can put a wall up through it and just go in there with a machete or your mower or whatever and just make you a 2 foot path. Them deer will follow that path through there. They will not try to walk through that stuff. I mean, it's thick and dense. But yeah, to funnel on a deer, you can't beat it.
And Robbie, I want to add a couple more things on that actual plant itself, that sorghum. One, I know down here when it heads out and makes a head, the deer will eat it. 100%.
They love
that.
Yes.
They love to eat that. Now it's a later on mature, plant for sure in the season. But I've heard this before, and I want to get your opinion on it. I've heard that different types of sorghums have a natural insect repelling characteristics in the plant, and deer like to bed around that. Is that something that a lot of people don't know about?
There's sorghum varieties that, yes, that is correct. Yes. There's actually 4 or 5 different ones that is very correct.
So now, that's another. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But no, go ahead, Tim.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I'm taking this thing to just a deeper layer in the onion. So if you're using a product like this, like a Barricade product, and I don't know if those particular sorghums have any of those properties in those or not. But if you do plant sorghum that has those capabilities, and you can use those in your food plot as well to have cover and obviously a food source.
Yep.
Now with like EHD being a serious thing in different parts of this country. Now here in the South, we're lucky; it's not that big a deal at times. We've had a few hit and miss kind of thing going on, but nothing like in the Kentuckys and Illinois and Missouris and Iowas. That they get hammered pretty hard up in you guys' area. Wouldn't that be something to kind of look into to see if that could help repel some of those insects and things to help with I mean, maybe I'm just spitballing right now, but I mean, I'm just thinking about that, in the past.
No, you're exactly right. And, we have thought about a lot of different ways that we can use this for your guys' advantage. I mean, everybody's advantage. The thing when it comes to sorghum and wanting this advantage out of it, you pretty much got to plant it straight if you're wanting to use it for the bedding part of it, which is awesome. A lot of guys do that. Here in Illinois, that we use plant a lot of sorghum. A lot of people do, a lot of grain sorghum, and it works out just great. As in getting it into and this might not be what you're talking about, but like getting it into a mix or something like that for a food plot, it's very hard to do since it is such a tall plant. It shades out everything else. But planting straight sorghum, if you got the areas that you can plant it and use it for a bedding type area and everything, yes, your deer is definitely going to benefit from it.
Well, and talking about, plant properties that can benefit and even other product properties, Michael hit on EHD, even your plot max, some of the things that affects, with like what do you call it, prions or whatever in the soil. A lot of those products even can help fight against some EHD.
Yeah, with our plot max, I mean, that's actually a scientific fact now through Science Daily and all of them, where they show the humic acid will help with the killing of the prions in your soil. So, which cuts them numbers way down on the EHD. So there's a lot of studies of that out there. And the thing about it is, Todd, when he came out with the plot max, EHD, it wasn't there. That's been years ago. And it was just really surprising to us. And we started getting all these things from Science Daily come to us about using humic acid. And we're like, man, that's what plot max is. So we started doing our studying and seeing it's doing very well for that. I mean, there's the right amount of humic acid in that plot and that mix, because that's what it is in the plot max. And I don't know, knock on wood, if my area here where I'm at, we have EHD kill-offs all around. I have never lost a deer, and hopefully, knock on wood again, that it doesn't happen. But I'd really like to say it must have a lot to do with it, because I am a true believer in our plot max product, and I use it religiously. And I have I got a big number of deer, which I'm really worried about sometimes that might happen to me. And the last 3 big years we had of that over the past 10 years, I've never lost a deer. And I think it has to have something to do with that humic acid that I use all the time in that plot max product.
Well, and even, like your cereal rise in your fall, winter, spring, they even have some weed deterrent. They
do. That cereal rye, you'll have the most weed-free plot ever. Now, here's a little tattletale sign that I do that a lot of people don't realize. But when it comes to like our barricade we were just talking about, barricade loves nitrogen. It is a slow-growing product. That plant that starts to come up after it gets so tall, then it just goes crazy. So you get a lot of weed and grass issues. When I'm planting barricade, I'll take our 1-pound bags of our cereal rye, I mix it right in with my barricade. That helps with a weed suppressor. And then it also helps because the cereal rye pulls up all that nitrogen that's stored way down low. So I'm helping my weed control, and I'm feeding my barricade with that cereal rye. So that's just a little thing that I tested out over the last couple of years, and it works out very well. So, yep.
There's a little insider tip right here on the podcast.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, I mean, you got to think about this from a standpoint. I mean, a company like Antler King that's been around for so many years, and we know Todd personally, and how hard a worker he is, and how much heart and soul you guys have all put into making these products. And
Yep.
and that's, from a consumer standpoint, just utilizing all the resources, just like the stuff we're talking about right here, just little
Mhm.
tips and tricks that you don't have to do a lot. You just have to
Right.
do the work, and you can have a ton of results on your property from, suppressing EHD, for example, on some level, all the way to not having to dump a fortune every year in the food plots. I mean, there's so many layers of this onion. We could sit here, for probably a week and laying out everything you can do, but it's just amazing at the stuff that's out there that can help us, a guy that has 5 acres or 5,000 acres to perform the same way.
Exactly. And, I was very fortunate to be able to learn from Todd. And, I've done food plots for many years prior to even meeting Todd. And, he's forgot more than I'll ever know, but it was just, I'm very blessed to be able to learn from him. And I still learn from him. There's still a lot of things that, that are more scientific, more stuff like that he really keeps up on that I don't. That it's pretty amazing what that man knows, and the tricks of the trade that you can actually do to a food plot, save money at the same time as you're feeding deer. I mean, it's amazing what you can do. And all, just like the barricade deal I just said there, that's all tricks of the trade that I like to give out to help people. And when they do it, it's not a selling thing. I'm not trying to tell you go buy a bag of cereal rye to throw in with your barricade, but I'm telling you what, it works. I mean, that's just how it is.
Simple as that. That's Antler King in a nutshell. It works.
Yep, it works.
That's it.
That's it.
Well, speaking of stuff that works, I know we probably you got 28,000 customer service calls probably on hold right now. Yeah, like Kevin said, 84 rednecks and Tractor Supply waiting on an answer. But in closing here, just what do we got new for 22? What's some stuff that people can be checking out right now?
Well, for 22, our Grainiac block that you guys have used too, the Grainiac block is probably the best block that we have ever built. We actually took it and from a 20-pound block, which we still have, we bumped it up to a 33-pound block too. So now we got a 20-pounder and a 33-pounder for the guys that are using them religiously, which we do have a lot. That is actually our #1 selling product last year, was that Grainiac block. We got a new mix called Southern Greens. We actually put it together for guys like you, but then again, with our testing process, we started testing it from even, northern Wisconsin all the way down to you guys, and found out that the deer love it just as much in Wisconsin as it does in the southern states. So it's called Southern Greens. I mean, it's a very good blend, using some collard greens in with it, with some radish, stuff like that. Going to be a phenomenal mix. I planted it last year on my home farm, testing it out. And I can say the only issue I have, I didn't plant enough of it because the deer liked it too well. So this year I'm going to expand that plot out a little bit. It was just a little test plot. So really threw me for a loop on how they really did like it. Had food all season long.
Yeah, we threw a few bags of that out on our place. It didn't last long.
No.
Yeah, that was another one of those. It's a good thing we had exclusion cages because they were demolishing it.
They demolished it. Exactly right. So yeah, that's two of the main products. Now we do have our down and dirty block, a 30-pound, very high protein, 28% protein block. That this time of year right now is something that I highly recommend the guys that use that legally can use them. Pump all that protein in as you can as them deer are growing their horns. But yeah, them are the 3 main products right there.
Well, I mean, we've used them all. We know they work well, right, Kevin?
Oh yeah, yeah. Some of that stuff like Grainiac, shoot, you about want to grab you a fork and grab a bite when you lay that thing out. It just looks good.
It smells good, doesn't it? Looks good, smells good.
It's like that cotton candy. Actually, it looks like cotton candy. It smells like it.
Yep.
Well, Rob, we appreciate it, buddy. Thanks for taking time out of your day to hop on here. And if anybody listens to this and they hadn't learned something new on food plots, then when they need to go work for you guys because they already know everything. Right?
There you know. Yep. Yeah.
Give just everybody a quick rundown where they can find out more about Antler King.
AntlerKing.com. And I'll tell you what, you can go on there. You'll find, I'll just let them know real quick before we get out of here. A lot of people want to know where they can buy products. Go to AntlerKing.com. You're going to go on there, go to locations, put your zip code in. You can find all the product dealers in your area. So you can do that. But AntlerKing.com is the main one. Our phone number's on there. You call that number, it's going to come straight to me. I'm going to talk to you. Email that's on there is going to come straight to me. I'll help you out in any way I can. And that's about as simple as it gets.
No, Antler King professor sitting right there ready for everybody to call and email. And
we're calling in right now.
I was gonna say, after this is over and we post this, you may want to change your number. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Well, thanks for hopping on here. Kevin, anything else you want to add in?
No, just, I burn Robbie's phone up a lot, asking a lot of questions. I appreciate you, buddy. You a lot of knowledge, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing it with us.
Hey, that's what I'm here for, and I'm glad you guys have me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Everybody, hope you have a great week. Get out there, work on your food plots. This is a motivational speech at the end of this thing to make your deer herd bigger and healthier and better and all around. Them does are dropping fawns right now. You need to feed them babies because that's your future booner that's just popping out right now. And those bucks that are already growing antlers, they need all they can get. They'll get bigger and better too. So y'all check out antlerking.com. Call Robbie, ask him 24/7. He likes to answer the phone at 2 a.m. That's his favorite time. So please call him then. He hasn't blocked Kevin yet, so we know he will answer. All right, y'all have a great week.
All right. See you guys.
See y'all.